Hey guys, welcome back to this channel. Now in this video I want to discuss what's going on with the price of Solana. Now it's been incredibly volatile over the past year, but it looks like we've hit on this support and we're about to bounce off based on some of the things that are going on politically. So for those that have been living under a rock, the reason for a big bounce in the altcoin markets was because of a tweet put out by Trump. A US crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directed the presidential working group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I will make the US the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again. And obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as other valuable cryptos, will be at the heart of the reserve. So Trump is going to go speak at some crypto conference that's being held at the White House, the first of its kind. And it's been speculated that he's going to discuss what he's just tweeted about now, and that's the idea of a strategic crypto reserve as opposed to just a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now I talked about this a little bit in my last video. There's a few layers to it, but the reason why this is a big deal for altcoins is because, as far as I can tell, like, the US government doesn't necessarily have altcoins already. So what would make up the strategic Bitcoin reserve would be the Bitcoin that it already owns as a result of confiscating these assets from criminal organizations. That's how most governments around the world acquired such large swathes of Bitcoin. And essentially by turning that into the US Bitcoin reserve, they're essentially just guaranteeing not to sell it, but they're not necessarily going to go to the open market and buy it. So it's not clear that there's any real macro reason for a US Bitcoin reserve to pump the price of Bitcoin up. It's just a really good vote of approval politically, but it's a bit different with the crypto reserve because it's not clear that the US government has tons of Cardano or Solana or Ripple. Now, to be honest, I think this is actually quite silly. It just doesn't really make sense. I mean, what is the point of a Ripple reserve? It's just not necessary unless it's just, you know, for speculation, right? Like, it would be cool if, you know, if the price keeps going up and, you know, it would be like, you know, Norway's like investment reserve, like their national investment endowment fund or whatever it is. Now, before I go on, I just want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Local CoinSwap. You can use my referral link in the description down below if you're interested in buying cryptocurrency without KYC, and you can do so with a number of different payment methods. You've got everything from cash, you know, cash by mail, cash in person. You've got TransferWise, all the different fintechs, all the different remittance services, and you can do this unlike, say, a centralized exchange where you have to just use bank transfers. You can do so with, you know, hundreds of different payment methods that are particular to the country that you're living in. And yeah, you can do so without KYC. I think it's the best way of buying crypto. So if you want to use my referral link, I'd much appreciate that. You can use it in the, you can find it in the comment section below. Now, there's something that is different to what I talk about in my previous video, which is kind of a general, you know, wellspring for the altcoins. I want to talk a bit about like Solana in particular, and that's because of this article here on CoinDesk. CME Group to launch Solana futures as demand grows for future derivatives, right? So let's just read this real quick. CME Group's, the world's largest derivatives marketplace, plans to introduce Solana futures on March 17, expanding its suite for cryptocurrency derivatives. It said in press release on Friday. The new contracts, pending regulatory review, will allow traders to manage SOL price risk with two contract sizes, 25 SOL and 500 SOL. So basically, this is going to make it so that the CME Group is going to buy huge amounts of SOL in order to be able to provide these contracts for people. And the larger the trading volume, the more Solana is going to be required. Spot Solana, that is. So I mean, this is going to be quite a big deal, and, you know, it's interesting because the people that would be, you know, trading, you know, Solana futures are also the kind of people that would be looking at, you know, information like this, like the fact that it's going to be bought up by the, you know, the CME Group, and then use that as a reason to long, you know, the market, or short, you know, if they're going to maybe sell the news, right? But the fact that, you know, Solana has kind of reached, you know, the next level of degen, whereas, because, you know, a lot of the degen Solana stuff is like, on Pump.fun or these like inverse perpetual contracts you can find on Bybit. It's kind of that degen kind of behavior has now gone to like a higher institutional level. And the reality is that degen behavior, it creates on-chain activity. And that's the reason why a lot of these layer ones perform so well, So, I mean, the biggest reason for the price increase of like, BSC, that's a Binance Smart Chain or Ethereum, is because of NFTs, it's because of shitcoins, stuff like that. And Solana has been very exposed to that as well, Pump.fun has really caused Solana to explode. And now we've got a similar thing occurring, but yeah, just as I mentioned, on an institutional level and a larger level, right? So there's real appetite for volatile markets, and Solana is, one of the larger markets that exist in crypto that is, it's not so completely degen that, it's a total gamble, but it's still, it's stable and it's volatile enough that you can get some price action. And I want to talk a bit about as well what's going on with Bitcoin dominance, because that's going to have the biggest impact on what's going to happen with the altcoin market in general. And as you can see, we have been in a steady we've been going up for a little while, since, as you can see here, since December 2022, and we have been very much respecting this trend line. And only in November 2024 we actually got a break from this trend, and this is kind of coalescing with the time period where everyone was kind of putting their finger on the pulse and saying, like, it's been a roughly 6 months, 7 months since the halving. Bitcoin bull run is just around the corner. It's usually around this time that you would have an altcoin season. So if I go back to last time, it happened around a similar time frame. So we got December 2020. That was the last time that we got an altcoin season. That was around 6-7 months away before the previous halving. And there was a similar thing back in 2017, as we can see here. It happened around February 2017. So yeah, around like 8-9 months after the halving. That's usually when you see altcoins just start to skyrocket, and that manifests in the Bitcoin dominance, which the Bitcoin dominance is basically where it's a measurement of how much the crypto market cap is dominated by Bitcoin. So when that number falls, altcoins, the price that is, tends to increase. So we've had this thing where everyone thought that the Bitcoin dominance was just going to permanently go down and set a trend, but that was very short-lived, and we bounced back into this when the Fed was just not even necessarily hawkish, but they weren't as dovish as people hoped. So we assumed that the interest rates were just going to fall off a cliff precipitously, but they didn't do that. They were a little more measured in their response, and that was enough to get people to be a bit more hesitant in their behavior, right? So people were a little more risk off. And there were a bunch of people selling the news of, Trump getting into office. It kind of became a bit of a sell the news event. And as a result, Bitcoin dominance has climbed back into this trading range. But we are just in the process of testing this bottom range, this bottom support line. And we're going to have to wait for another week to see if we actually, close below this line. And then we're going to have to wait a few more weeks to test this line. But as you can see here on the wave trend indicator, we are very close to printing a red dot and going into bearish territory when it comes to Bitcoin dominance, which is actually very good for the market and especially good for altcoins. And then, yeah, hopefully we can go below this 0% line, but we'll see. Now, another thing that I want to point out is that the coming of, Solana to, CME futures, I predict is going to have a bit of a similar run to what's happened with the Ethereum ETFs. So when institutions get involved with altcoins, as you can see here, there's a huge sell-off in the beginning, because it's a big sell the news event, and because Bitcoin was really it was really the star of the show when it came to ETFs. There just really clearly hasn't been the same kind of risk on appetite when it's come to altcoins, so we could just completely dump as a result. However, I want to also mention this, and that's the fact that you can see that when we started to get all these big ETF inflows, and it kind of reversed this trend, and you'll notice that it was on the 6th of November, which is around the time that the election was happening. And this is kind of a bet on Donald Trump becoming president and creating a more risk on focused like market. So I think a lot of people are betting that Trump is going to come in and he's going to do the various things that are going to help devalue the dollar, whether that's from forcing the Fed to lower interest rates, or maybe it's like some things that he's doing with tariffs or re-onshoring jobs. All these things have a somewhat like a devaluing of the US dollar aspect to it, which ultimately is going to pump up all risk on assets. And this is going to be the case for everything, including tech stocks, but altcoins are just particularly sensitive to these things. So anything that increases the amount of liquidity of US dollars or devalues these US dollars, it's going to have a really good impact on the price of altcoins. And I think that's ultimately what people were betting on. And as you can see, generally, things have been quite positive for the Ethereum ETFs. So we could see something similar when it comes to Solana. Again, I reckon there's probably going to be some big dump at the beginning, a big sell the news event. But overall, we're probably going to see fairly positive inflows by the CME group into it. And yeah, so guys, if you like this channel, make sure to subscribe and use my referral link in the description down below for local coins. So that's where you can buy cryptocurrency without KYC, and I'll see you in the next video.